And a very good morning, afternoon. We're here in the Eastern time zone, depending whatever time zone you're in. I hope you're having a good day. If you're just starting out, like out on the left coast, out that way, if you're just starting out, I hope you're looking forward to a great day. Of course, most of us here in the Eastern time zone, half of our day has already passed by. So I hope you guys have a good time as well. Welcome to the show. We're coming to you live from the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, live and in Charlotte, North Carolina, right here, I-95. Also podcasting on most of your major podcast platforms, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Sprecher, it's a whole bunch of them, so we don't want to go to every single one of them that we're on. But anyway, welcome to the show. And my name is Chris Pardo. Again, we're here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Got a big day for today. We're going to be talking about NBA basketball. 3 games we have on tap for today. Going to take a look and see which direction the pros are going, which direction the line movement is going in these particular games, as well as a couple of baseball games we're going to take a look at as well. Not in as great a detail because, once again, it's kind of time prohibited. We don't have time to kind of go into all the details like we normally do, but we'll tell you what the two games are, what the teams are, and then once again, like always, we always leave it up to you to decide what it is you want to do. Also, we're going to talk about the NBA, give you some a little ideas and some things to look out for if you're betting on your own, you're picking your own games, your own teams, whatever. We're going to kind of give you some thoughts and ideas to try to help you along in that respect as well. And of course, as always, we're going to go back and take a look and see what happened as far as the world of sports is concerned, okay, in various games that happened yesterday. So let's get right down to it right now. We'll get right down to that right now and talk about the 3 major sports that had some betting going on yesterday. You have Major League Baseball, the NBA, and of course, the National Hockey League. You got playoff action in the hockey and basketball, and of course the regular season is still going on in Major League Baseball. So to start with, in the National Hockey League, the underdogs once again 2-1 with upsets by the Islanders, -105 against the Penguins, and the Wild a +125 against the Golden Knights. The Lightning a -145 against the Panthers was the only chalk team to win last night. So like we said, we've been kind of following this situation early in the season. We told you how dominant the favorites have been. I'll tell you, once the playoffs started, the dogs kind of stuck their heads out of them doghouses and started making some noise. They did pretty good so far as the playoffs are concerned. So altogether now, the favorites, they still lead overall, of course, 21-16. You also had 3 pick'ems. The home teams are 3-0 yesterday, and they take a 21-19 lead, 21 games to 19 as far as home teams are concerned. The unders are 2-0 yesterday, and they now lead 22-18. But the big news out of the NHL, of course, is the underdogs. They're really starting to catch on here. Once you get down into the playoffs and you've got the top teams competing against each other, and they know this is it. There's no tomorrow. They have to go for it. You're going to see a lot more of the underdogs coming in, like we've been talking about. Meanwhile, in the NBA, the favorites, they went 3-0 straight up, 3-0 against the spread. The 76ers, 8-point favorites against the Wizards covered. The Knicks, 2-point favorites against the Hawks. And the Jazz, a -10-point favorite against the Grizzlies. So the favorites, they now lead 11-5 straight up, and they are 9-7 against the spread. And of course, just to give you an idea, the New York Knicks and the Utah covering was Washington talk about the zigzag theory. And the zigzag yesterday was 2-1 against the spread. You had winners with New York against Utah. The Knicks were covered, but was losing, okay, and they improved to 4-4 against the spread. The unders went 2-0 yesterday. The overs went 9-7. Then they have the lead at 9-7. Meanwhile, in Major League Baseball, the favorites went 7-5. The Reds and the Nationals. There's no action on that game because the game was suspended in the fourth inning. Now, the biggest upset were the Cardinals, a plus 190 against the White Sox. And of course, you had other upsets by the Astros, the Angels, the Tigers, and the Marlins. The favorites still lead, however. They're at 55.8%. The unders went 8-3-1, and they take a slight lead, 354 to 351. So that's the coverage for Major League Baseball, the NBA, and of course the National Hockey League. And as usual, we're going to take our first break, and when we come back, we're going to take a look at the three games that are on tap today as far as the basketball situation is concerned. Kind of give you a quick look at that as well. We're going to look at Milwaukee against Miami. That's the 7:30 game. 10 o'clock, the Phoenix Suns against the Los Angeles Lakers. And the 10:30 game, the Denver Nuggets against the Portland Trailblazers. And as far as baseball is concerned, the two games we're going to be looking at today are the Indians against the Tigers and the Royals against the Rays. Royals against the Rays. That's the story with baseball. So, like I said, we're going to take our first break. And as usual, our breaks do last only 1 minute or a little over a minute sometimes, but we do take three of them throughout the show. So if you're a new listener, you kind of get an idea as to how the format of the show has been put together. So let's take that first break. We'll be back into the sports wagering zone in 1 minute. And welcome back. Welcome back to the Sports Wagering Zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening. Coming to you live right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as podcasting on most of your major podcast platforms, such as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify. There's many more, but should give you a good idea as to we're on most of the major podcast platforms as well. So thank you very much for listening. And of course, like we said, we're going to talk about basketball to begin with. But before we get started, another state looks like they're coming on board. Connecticut. Connecticut is legalizing their sports betting situation because yesterday the Connecticut State Senate voted 28-6 in favor of a bill that will legalize sports betting in the state of Connecticut. The bill had already passed overwhelmingly in the House, 122-21, and it now heads to Governor Ned Lamont's desk. Lamont has long been a proponent of legalized betting, so he should sign it as soon as he gets it, put the bill into law, and they're probably trying to get it going as soon as possible because the new gaming compact that, as they put it together, allows for not only retail and online betting, but includes betting in person at the popular Mohegan Sun and the Foxwoods casinos as well. Now, Connecticut is home to 3.5 million people. That makes it the 30th most populous state in the country. But Connecticut is also one of the wealthiest states in the country, ranking 6th in the highest median income category. It is also strategically located next to the lucrative New York City market as well. Now, the goal is to have the legalized betting up and going in time for what else but week 1 of the NFL season. That's where all the money lies most of the time. The big bets start coming in during the NFL season. Then, of course, you got college basketball during that time period as well, and college football. So you really want to be up and running by that time. Connecticut is set to legalize betting. So now we're up to 28 legal states, including plus DC, Washington, D.C. as well. So 28 states and the District of Columbia as well. So more and more coming on board. What does that mean? It means that for us contrarian bettors, we love to see all those new bettors coming in, because with them, they bring their biases, they bring their tendencies to bet on favorites. They love to bet on home teams. They love to bet on big name players, things of that nature. So whenever that happens, and of course, the sports books are well aware of this. They've known this for decades. What they're going to do is they're going to take that line and move it up a little bit to make sure they get the most they can out of it. And what that means for us contrarians is, on the other side, if a line goes from -7 to -8, 8.5, on the other half, it's going to go up from +7 to +8 to +8.5, whatever it is, right? So we're looking forward to that as well. Anyway, we'll talk about that in the future, but in the meantime, it's the NBA playoffs going on tonight, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, the Milwaukee Bucks and the Miami Heat. This is Game 3 of the Eastern Conference first round. The Bucks lead the series 2-0. They're coming off a 132-98 blowout over Miami back there in Game 2. They easily covered. They were 5-point home favorites in that game. Now, Game 3, the line opened with Milwaukee. It's either a pick'em or a 1-point road favorite, because they're on the road now. Now, the pro money has come in on the Bucks, pushed Milwaukee up to 1.5, from being a 1-point favorite to being a 1.5-point favorite. Now, one system to keep an eye out for, very simply, teams that are down 0-2 coming home for Game 3 on the first half line. That's very important. The first half line, betting the first half as opposed to the whole game. Now, historically, they come out hungry and they're desperate, and they've covered the first half spread about 65% of the time over the past decade. So if you're into in-game betting, this is a good way to kind of get things started by taking the Miami Heat in the first half, okay? Because they've been going along at 65%, and that's over the past 10 years. So there's maybe something to that little method. The Heat are -1 on the first half line. So we've also seen some under money coming in on this game as well. Now, despite the public going over and hammering, the total has dropped from 227 down to 226.5. Now, up 2-0 in the series, the Bucks are now a -1100 on the money line to advance to the second round. And those are the odds from BetMGM. 1100, -1100 on the money line to advance into the second round. Not to necessarily win their division, but to win the second, get into the second round, winning the first round. The Heat are +700 long shots to come back and win the series as well. So in the first game tonight at 7:30, Milwaukee Bucks and the Miami Heat. We're looking at betting on the Milwaukee Bucks for the total game, but looking for that first half, okay? Because like I said, over the past 10 years, the first half, when you have a team coming home after losing their first 2 games, they're at a 65% average over the past 10 years of coming in that first half. Okay. So just kind of give you something a little extra than we normally talk about. Meanwhile, the Phoenix Suns against the Los Angeles Lakers, that's a 10 o'clock game. This is game 3 of the Western Conference first round. The series is tied at 1-1, and after they dropped the opener 99-90, the Lakers came back with a 109-102 win in game number 2. And in that game, they covered. They were 2-point road favorites in that game. Now the series shifts back to Los Angeles. The game 3 line opened with the Lakers a 6.5-point home favorite. The public thinks this is a little high, and they're kind of grabbing the points with Phoenix. The public in this game are on Phoenix. However, we've seen this line move further to the Lakers, going from 6.5 to 7. So what this means is that the pros are fading the trendy dog on Los Angeles as a rare contrarian home favorite. So the total opened at 211, ticked down slightly to 210.5, which means that some under money is coming in and there's support at that level. Now, one big variable that you got to look at here is the health of Chris Paul. He's on the Suns, okay? He's dealing with a shoulder injury, and he is expected to play. However, we don't know how effective he's going to be, and that's going to be in question after game 2, getting out early in that game as well. So with the series tied at 1-1, the Lakers are now a minus 350 favorite to make it to the second round. The Suns a plus 260 dog to come back and win the series. So as far as the pros are concerned in this game, they're looking at the Lakers as the team to bet in this game. The pros are on Phoenix, and of course the general public is on Phoenix. The pros are on the Lakers. So that's the story. In the first game we talked about, the Bucks against the Heat. The pros on that one are on the Milwaukee Bucks, but with a little caveat that if you're looking to play in-game action, over the past 10 years, 65% of the time, the team that lost 2 games, their first 2 games, and they come back, they come home for the first game, they usually cover within that first half with no problem over 65% of the time. So we're going to take our second break. When we come back, we're going to look at the Denver Nuggets against the Portland Trailblazers. And of course, we're also going to talk about baseball. We have a couple of games we want to talk about as well. The Indians against the Tigers and the Royals against the Rays. So just a reminder, you're in the sports wagering zone. We'll be back right after this. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening. Coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina. We're on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as podcasting on most of your major podcast platforms as well. So we're talking about NBA action, talking about the playoffs and 3 games on tap for tonight. Just to recap the first 2 we talked about, the Milwaukee Bucks against the Miami Heat. The pick in that game is the Milwaukee Bucks by the pros. But as a little caveat, like we said, we're also adding into the fact that whenever a team that has lost their first 2 games, when they come home to play their first home game and they're 0-2 coming in, over the past 10 years, over 65% of the time, they do cover that first half, if you like in-game betting, okay? Just to kind of give you an idea, right now, as far as I can see, the number on that is -1. They're a 1-point favorite for the first half as well. So the pros like the Bucks, Miami, if you're playing the in-game first half. Meanwhile, at 10 o'clock, the Suns against the Los Angeles Lakers. In that particular game, the public is on Phoenix, and of course, the pros are on the Lakers. Finally, 10:30, Denver Nuggets, Portland Trailblazers. This is game 3 of the Western Conference first round. The series is tied 1-1. The Blazers, they won the opener 123-109. They were 1-point road dogs in that game. And then the Nuggets came back with a 128-109 win in game 2. There they covered as 2-point home favorites. Now, in tonight's pivotal game 3, the Blazers opened as a 4-point home favorite. The public is kind of split down the middle as far as the tickets have been coming in, and they're not really certain which way they want to go, which side they want to take. But reading between the lines, there appears to be liability on the Nuggets. Some books have dropped down to 3.5 at some times. The line has never risen to 4.5. So what this means is that the pro money is leaning on the Nuggets and taking the points. The under is also taking in some pro money as well. Despite, again, a majority of bets going on the over, the total has dropped down a little from 228 down to 227.5. The Blazers are -175 on the money line favorites to win the series. The Nuggets +145 as dogs. So in this particular game, the pros are on the Denver Nuggets. So once again, just to recap the 3 games for tonight. Game 1, Milwaukee Bucks against the Miami Heat. The pros are on the Milwaukee Bucks. But again, looking at in-game action, you could they like the Miami Heat in the first half in that game. At 10 o'clock, you got the Phoenix Suns against the Los Angeles Lakers. In that particular game, the pros are on the Lakers. And finally, the late game night, Denver Nuggets against the Portland Trailblazers. The pros in this game are on the Denver Nuggets. So that's the story as far as basketball is concerned. And to give you an idea as to, once again, how well or how badly a system is doing, I'm trying to give you an idea as to the numbers as far as basketball has been concerned in the playoffs so far, and the pros with their selections. So far, we've had 12 plays. Out of those 12 plays, we had 10 winners and they had 2 losers. Yesterday, we had 2 games. We had Memphis getting 10 points, but still lost to Utah. But we had the Knicks against Atlanta laying 2 points, easily covered on that one. So like I said, altogether, so far within the playoff system, we've had 12 plays, 10 wins, 2 losses. So again, like we always say, you can take a look at it 2 different ways. You could say, hey, look, they're 10-2. They got to break down. They got to get down to more like 10-6, 10-7, maybe. Okay. So you're going to bet against whatever their choice is, or you could take a look at it and say, wow, these guys are really hot. They really know they're on their game. They know what they're doing. I'm going to just ride them out and stay with them. So either way you look at it, it's still up to you to make that final decision. So that's the story with the NBA. We'll recap those games once again just before we go off the air. So let's now take and get our attention over to baseball. We got two games we're going to take a look at. Again, because of time constrictions, we're not going to go into the normal detail that we normally do with our games, but just to give you an idea as to who the teams are and maybe why. The first game we're looking at, the Indians against the Tigers. In this game, Matthew Boyd is pitching for the Tigers. And with the market consensus somewhere around plus 150 on the money line. And even though they have to face Shane Bieber, we kind of believe that there's good value in betting on the Tigers to actually beat the Indians in this game. The Tigers will definitely be decent underdogs in this game. They're around plus 150 right now. More than likely, they'll probably even go higher before game time today. So in the particular game between the Tigers and the Indians, we're on the Tigers in that game. Finally, with the other game we're looking at, the Royals against the Rays. In this game, with Brady Singer on the mound, it looks like we're going to be betting on the Royals on their money line. Two underdogs we're looking at today. The money line on the Royals, last time we looked at it, was around 150, 155. It's somewhere in that particular area, okay? So if you're kind of looking at it, the Royals seem to be the bet to kind of bet here because you got Brady Singer up against Shane McClanahan. Brady Singer's on the mound for the Royals, so that's the way we're going as far as that is concerned. So if you can find odds at 150 or better, plus on the plus side, of course, that's the team to kind of take a look at and bet. So that's the story in baseball. We have two games that we talked about real quickly. The Royals against the Rays. We're on the Royals in that game. And the first game we talked about briefly, the Indians against the Tigers. Even though Bieber's going to be good pitching for the Indians, we're still on the Tigers in that particular contest. So that's the story as far as baseball is concerned. We covered 3 NBA games. We'll, again, review them once again before we go off the air. But let's take our final break. And when we come back, I want to take a look and give you some handicapping thoughts if you're still involved in NBA action. If you're an NBA bettor, we got some thoughts and ideas that might be of some help to you in that direction. So let's take that final break. And just a reminder, you're in the sports wagering zone. We'll be back right after this. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. We're coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina. So let's take a look at some NBA thoughts of what's been going on so far as the playoffs are concerned. Perhaps some of this information might be of some help to you if you're going in that direction. First of all, remember last year, the Los Angeles Lakers, they kind of dominated everybody. They rolled through that Western Conference. Their record was 12-3. They beat each conference team 5 games, no more than 5 games, on their way to getting into the finals. So as you look back with this macro view, it seems like it looks like it was pretty easy for the Angels, the Lakers. There's so many LA teams right now. The Lakers to get their 17th championship, but we really know that that was not the case. It wasn't all that easy for them because the Lakers lost the first game in the first 2 series that they played, and the takes flowed after each loss. But betting is not about hot takes. It's about making observations. So you're turning those observations into an educated hypothesis as to why an event went the way it did. And then you act on those in hopes that they're going to work out for the way the data that you're putting together is telling you to do. Now, bettors learned valuable lessons Monday about not overreacting to a result. And a lot of opportunities to learn even more are still coming ahead. Because when Miami lost to Milwaukee in overtime of game 1, a lot of people believe the loss was positive as far as the Heat were concerned. Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo had combined to go 8 for 37 for only 26 points, and the Bucks needed overtime in order to even beat them. Now, surely the 2 stars would perform better and Miami would win game 2. However, that real simple analysis is really flawed because it ignored the fact that Milwaukee, they won that game despite shooting 16% from deep, and they dominated at the rim by going 22 of 29 within a 4-foot against the rim defense that ranked 17th during the season and 26th in the second half. So what would really be more likely to happen? That Butler and Adebayo would have better scoring nights and Miami could maintain shooting 40% or 50-point attempts, 53-point attempts, that is, or that Milwaukee's shooting would revert to the mean while it continued to exploit that weak rim defense. But to me, it seemed as if the latter option would be more likely, and sure enough, it certainly was. The Bucks continued to thrive inside 4 feet by going 15 of 19, and the shooting corrected itself in a really big way. Milwaukee hit 47.4% of its three-pointers in non-garbage time and blew out Miami 132-98, where they took a 2-0 series lead. Very similar. Now, a similar situation came up in the nightcap on Monday. Denver had performed pretty good in its loss to Portland on Saturday night, averaging almost little over 1 point per possession, while dismantling that soft interior defense by hitting 21 of 27 shots within the 4-foot range. Now, however, the Nuggets lost 123-109 because they hit just 31.4% of their attempts from the deep area, while the Trailblazers hit for 39 two-pointers in a non-garbage time. Non-garbage time is important because if you're blowing somebody away from that point on, that's considered garbage points. They're letting you have them, in other words. Denver's performance inside the 4-foot line was likely to repeat itself against an interior defense that gave up the 8th most attempts at the rim during the regular season. So all it needed was a better shooting night. Now, that's exactly what happened. The Nuggets posted a 138 offensive rating and tied the series while going a combined 35 of 54, which is almost 65% at the rim and beyond the arc as well. So when evaluating these box scores, as you look back at them, it's important to value things that can be replicated consistently within a series situation, not the anomalies that took place in a single game. okay? Identifying which performances are sustainable and then you act on those performances is the key if you want to have any type of success here in the NBA playoffs. So that's the story as far as that's concerned. I hope that little bit of information is some help to you. And once again, these are the 3 games that we have on tap for tonight. We follow the line movement on them as well as in which direction the pros are going as well. So to recap those 3 games, 7:30, you got the Bucks against the Heat. The pros are on the Bucks. Meanwhile, like we said, they also like the idea of the Miami Heat as a first half play. The Miami Heat, a 1-point favorite in the first half play. And again, over the past 10 years, teams that have lost 2 games coming home for their first home game have covered that first half over 65% of the time. So kind of, if you're looking for a little extra action in a game, there it is. It's right there, right in front of you. Meanwhile, at 10 o'clock, you got the Phoenix Suns and the Los Angeles Lakers. In that particular game, the pros are on the Lakers, the general public on the Phoenix Suns. And finally, the Denver Nuggets and the Portland Trailblazers. In that the late game, around 10:30ish or so, somewhere in that area. The pros are on the Denver Nuggets in that particular game. So those are the 3 games we took a closer look at, kind of giving ideas to the line movement in those games, as well as which direction the pros are going. In the meantime, as far as baseball is concerned, the 2 games we have on tap for today are the Indians against the Tigers. And in that game, we like the Tigers. The Royals against the Rays. In that particular game, we're on the Royals. And just to, once again, because we haven't done it yet, but I'm going to recap the baseball totals for you so you have a general idea as to how this little method has been working so far this season. We've had 154 plays altogether, 83 winners, 70 losers. That's still 53.8%. You're still well into the profit margin as far as looking at games that the pros, which direction they're going, and going in that same direction as well. So that's the story for today. You got the 3 basketball games on tap for tonight. You also have the 2 baseball games. And if you like hockey, there's some hockey action out there for you as well. So it's Thursday. Have a very pleasant Thursday. And of course, if you're betting, certainly we hope that you have a winning day as far as betting is concerned. We really want to see you win so that you have a little cash left over once the seasons come to an end. So once again, thank you very much for listening. We're here every day, Monday through Friday, 12 noon Eastern Time, right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as most of your major podcast platforms as well. So once again, thanks for listening. Have a pleasant Thursday. If you're betting, I hope you have not only a pleasant Thursday, but also a profitable Thursday as well. And we'll be back again tomorrow, 12 noon Eastern Time, Charlotte, North Carolina, I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, and most of your major podcast platforms. So until tomorrow, have a very pleasant and hopefully a very profitable day as well. Goodbye, everybody.